In this video, we will take a look at iterating over dictionaries. While similar to the previous two videos, iterating over a dictionary in Python is slightly different. It involves traversing through each key value pair of the dictionary sequentially. Now you can also traverse through all the keys or all the values. Let's head over to PyScripter and take a look. I want you to open up the iterate dictionaries.pyscript from the iterate folder in the reference folder in the Python scripts. Here we have a dictionary of countries with information, and we saw this dictionary in the previous section. The dictionary is designed to represent features in a feature class or a shapefile where the key is an object ID, and then the values are a dictionary where the key is the name of a field. So we have name, population, and area, and the values represent the attribute values. So let's look at iterating through this dictionary. We'll start with our for loop for key value in countries. And because it's a dictionary and we want to access the key and the value, we have to use the items method available for the dictionary. Items returns each key value as a tuple, and with key value we are just unpacking that tuple into two different variables and printing the key and value variable to screen. I could have easily called these X and Y. We've just gone with key and value because that's what they are usually called in Python. So expect to see one and a dictionary printed for each key value pair. So let's run the script. And we can see that's exactly what we get. We'll comment out that example and open up the second example. If we don't use the items method, it is only the key that is printed when you iterate with a for loop. So here we're saying for key in countries, print key. So we're only expecting 1 through 10 to be printed. We'll run and we can see our output 1 to 10. Which represent the keys of our dictionary. In our third example, we can also use the .keys method. So we're saying for key in countries.keys, print key. The keys method returns a list-like object, the keys object, the dict keys object. We'll run the script and we should get the same output as our previous. We can see we get 1 to 10, just accessing the keys only. And of course we can do the same for values by using the values method. So we'll say for value in countries.values, print the value. So we're expecting it to print out the dictionary for each object ID. We'll run and we get our 10 dictionaries representing the attributes for our features. We can also access the values by using the key itself. So if we say for key in countries, print countries and supply in the key in between our square brackets. On the first iteration, it's going to be 1. On the second, it'll be 2. On the third, the key will be 3, which means the value for each is going to be printed out sequentially, and we'll get the same as we did when using the values method. We run our script and we can see again we get the 10 dictionaries. We can also use the for loop with enumerate. So we've seen enumerate in the previous two examples. We know it needs a number counter and then the value being returned. So we're saying for num and our key value pair in enumerate countries.items, and we're going to supply in 1 here to start off with because that's where our object ID begins. Sometimes you might need 0 because shapefiles, the FID is often 0. In a feature class in a geodatabase, it begins with 1. For each iteration, we are going to use string formatting. We're going to say item and put in the num that is returned from the enumeration. So in the first instance, that will be 1. And then we're going to return the key and value. We'll run our script and we can see our text. Item 1 has an object ID of 1. And we have our attributes as a dictionary. And this is for each of our items in our dictionary that represent a feature. You can also use a while loop to iterate over a dictionary. We'll set an index to equal 0 We'll create a variable called keys, and we'll call our countries.keys method and wrap this in a list to convert it to a list. While our index is less than the length of keys, we know there are 10 keys. We'll set the key to equal keys at the index. So the first is going to be 0. We've converted our keys to a list. Our list will be 1 to 10. So at index 0, our key is going to be 1. We'll set our value to be our country's key. So we're supplying 1 in for key, which means the dictionary associated with our object ID 1 will be returned. We'll print the key and the value to screen, and then we will update our index by 1. We'll increment our index by 1. So on the first run, we are going to get 1 and then our dictionary for Ireland printed. On the second iteration, we'll get 2 and the dictionary for France. And then for 3, we'll get Canada, and so on. Let's run the script. And we can see our object IDs on the left there and the dictionaries for each country on the right. Lastly, we'll take a look at accessing nested dictionaries. We'll use our for key value in countries.items to return our key value pairs. We'll print the key to screen. And then we're going to create another for loop and say for field name and attribute in our countries key.items. So this is where we are entering the nested dictionary. Field name will return name, then population, and then area. And our attribute will return the attribute associated to each of those field names. Our key on each iteration will be 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and so on. So we're accessing each feature individually and then printing the attributes to screen. So see here we're printing the key, and then under the key we are going to have a tabbed string where we print out the field name and the attribute. So let's run the script and look at that lovely formatted output. We have our object ID, our fields, and our attribute information nicely printed to screen. In this video, we saw how we could iterate over a dictionary in Python and access the information that we wanted. We could traverse through each key value pair of the dictionary sequentially, or we could access each key or value sequentially depending on our requirements. In our last example, we saw how we could access and iterate through nested dictionaries using for loops.